The new moon on Thursday, the 24th. What should we know? Welcome to Trevor's Tarot Astrology and Spirituality. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, promoting the channel, sharing the videos. Huge, huge thank you. I do have some time for some personal readings. If you're interested, I've put a post in the posts part, what used to be called the community part of the YouTube channel. There it lists, pricing, that kind of stuff. And you can find my email on the channel description, but it's a little confusing if you're on a mobile device. And I don't really want it written on the web, but if you are interested, you can email me. The email address is scryingoutloud3@gmail.com. And then we can figure out a time that best works for both of us. Okay, so the new moon is in Leo. Mercury's in retrograde. These are kind of opposite type energies. So it might feel a bit push and pull. Like we kind of talked about in the weekly energies of this. I should do this, but I'm not going to. I, you know, that kind of knowing that things need to be done, but not wanting to do them. This idea of maybe wanting to start a new project, but not wanting to start a new project. The new moon in Leo is a great time to start a new project, but Mercury being in retrograde kind of tells us we shouldn't, and our bodies kind of know these things. And so it's kind of going to be a little bit of a confusing type of uh, energy. So I thought we'd throw some cards from the Mirror Truth deck. I don't use this very often, but let's throw like a few cards to get some ideas. Then we'll throw some tarot, and then we'll end with maybe some angels and ancestors oracle. So it's just three cards. What should we know about this new moon? Definitely feels like um, there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable energies. It's kind of like, we're not going to be happy with the TV on. We're not going to be happy with the TV off. The lighting's going to annoy us. We're going to want to turn this lamp on, and then no, that's not enough light. So we'll turn on a different lamp, that kind of stuff. So just be prepared for that. So just three cards, I think, here. Okay, so the first card we get is trees. Planting roots and being grounded, I think will help dissipate some of that energy. If we can actually physically be grounded, put our feet on the ground, I think that would also help. And then just like a tree growing from the roots up to the trunk, and then the leaves absorb the sun, and the chlorophyll does its thing. Uh, Getting outdoors and enjoying the sun, getting some vitamin D in the natural way. Obviously, be careful. There's a heat wave in a lot of parts of the world, so do be careful with that. But I do think that's also something that will help. Now, of course, you're probably going to be like, I should go outside, but I don't want to go outside. I should go outside, but I don't want to go outside. That's just the way the energies are this week and then around this new moon. And then we get the child card. So, this is again this kind of push and pull, of speaking almost to your inner child, and your inner child telling you no, just like kind of a toddler telling you no. It's like, oh, we need to go to the bank to get cash for the farmer's market this weekend or something like that. And the inside voice going, no, I don't want to do that. That's just the way it kind of is. But it'll pass. And then we get garden, and this has to do with a lot of what I've been kind of saying over the last couple of weeks. If you can get outside and get your hands dirty, your feet on the ground, um, garden, plant, harvest, whatever that might mean to you. It doesn't need to actually be a physical garden. It could be a fairy garden. It could be, getting some fresh produce, even little things like that, I think will go a long ways to alleviate this kind of tension that we're going to feel. Um, yeah, I think in particular, uh, some fresh fruits that are in season this time of year in the northern hemisphere, I think can help a little bit and kind of give us something to do that's not so arguable. Like we all have to eat, so we're not going to argue about eating. What we eat is going to be an issue, but if we can stick with things that are more produce oriented, like watermelons and cherries and stone fruits, uh, things like that, I think, things that you really enjoy, even if maybe you're not supposed to have so much of them, I think that will go a long ways. Okay, so what do we need to know? Um, Definitely it's a time for a lot of self-expression, but at the same time, there's almost an embarrassment about being self-expressive. So it's a weird energy for sure. New moon in Leo and while Mercury retrograde is always a bit of a challenge. Um, but we'll get through it. Now, if you feel the want to start new projects, now personally, I've never had a problem starting new projects during a Mercury retrograde, but a lot of people do. I think it kind of depends on where Mercury's at in your chart. Um, so uh, there's that. But one of the things that you can do is you can plan for the new project rather than start it. Make a list of the resources you're going to need, but don't actually start it. That might be a fair compromise with yourself. If you're not scared of the Mercury retrograde and you feel like starting the project, start it. I mean, the saying goes that it'll just fizzle out. You'll have to start it over again, but sometimes the second time we try something's better anyhow. So that's why I've never just been a big believer in that personally, but uh, lots of creativity around this new moon. So, if you find yourself wanting to make, a money bowl or little things around the house, I see for, um, I've talked about this before on the new moon. One of the things that I do, and it's really simple and um, it seems to work, is just taking a little bit of cinnamon and putting it in the palm of my hand and then going to the front door, the door that you walk in the most, whatever that might mean. So for a lot of us, that's not our front door, but the door in the garage or wherever. And just, blowing the cinnamon into the house and just saying something simple like, cinnamon brings abundance. So while I blow the cinnamon to the house, I'm blowing abundance into this house. Things like that, I think, also are just good routines to get into. I think having routines kind of can quash a little bit of this internal conflict. So I try it, see if it works for you. I think, you know, obviously don't not a large amount of cinnamon, not enough to where you're gonna have to vacuum afterwards, just a tiny, tiny bit. Um, or some people put cinnamon sticks throughout their house as well. You can do that too. Um, don't have to. Just throwing out ideas of things that might kind of dissipate this energy, especially if you're worried financially right now. Now don't rush out and buy stuff if you're worried financially. But if you have some cinnamon in the cabinet, things like that, I think lighting candles, things like that as well. Okay, so what do we need to know? This new moon. Yeah, definitely the Four of Cups kind of energy. The Four of Cups is in the scrying bowl. It's just kind of a discontent type feeling because it's like on one hand we're very ambitious, but on another hand we don't really want to get off the couch. Just it's like a contradiction of feelings. Now we that doesn't mean we're not going to do the things we have to do because we will. So we get the Eight of Pentacles to start with. This is the apprentice becoming the expert. If one plan doesn't work, try another. This might be a time to just gather information rather than start the new project, but gather information about how to start the new project. Yeah, maybe it's a time to take some time to pause and suspend and look at things from a different perspective with the hanged man here in the environment around. And in particular, give yourself the freedom to just take a day off. Like, I mean, not suggesting that you take a day off work unnecessarily, but that's okay too. But if you're retired in particular, just giving yourself permission to not do anything for a day, you know, I think could be beneficial. The Queen of Swords, logic is gonna, we'll see what this means exactly once we get to the rest of the spread, but logic's not gonna really apply this kind of new moon. It's like kind of not very logical type of energies. They're contradicting one another, and about the best I think that we can come to is just accepting the fact that we might be antsy and anticipatory and just uncomfortable. Um, it's a good time to, meditate, work on your higher self. With the Hierophant here, I think, just trying to understand yourself. And maybe part of that is just understanding that the energies that are around that are affecting you might be making you kind of a little off your game. Like I said, they're kind of contradictory energies. At the heart of the reading or at the center of the reading, we get the Four of Pentacles, which is about stability. So there'll be this craving for stability, this craving for thinking, oh, things were better last year, or 2 years ago, or 10 years ago. Things, will be better 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and not really wanting to deal with what's going on right now. That's going to be there as well. Um, a lot of you might have a hard time sleeping this new moon in particular, and the days before and after it. So if you're having trouble sleeping, it's probably just that. Obviously, if this is a chronic issue, you might want to seek medical advice on that. I'm not a doctor, but it does feel like, this could be, especially if you don't have to do anything over, Thursday, Friday, and the weekend, taking some time to yourself is probably okay. Yeah, sleeplessness and anxiety, they go together. Um, Whenever you don't get a good night's sleep, it's a lot easier to be anxious the next day. So, you know, be aware, and when you're anxious, I think the best thing to do is just kind of say, I'm anxious, and don't fall into the lies that anxiety tells. Anxiety will tell you a whole bunch of lies like, oh, you can't go to the grocery store, or you can't meet your friend for coffee, or, you can't sit still to read a book. Uh, all those lies that anxiety tells us, if we can put those on the back burner, and that's much easier for me to say than do, by the way. Um, and then we get the sun card and the environment around. I do think after the moon starts to grow, things will be a little bit easier. I do think the new moon changes things. I said that in the weekly reading, and I still think that, and I'm still feeling that. I think, come early Friday morning, we'll start to feel a little bit of the energy growing in a positive direction personally, maybe not globally or geopolitically. Uh, there could be the tendency here to think back on old wounds, in particular the people that caused them that are still living. Um, just be aware of that. That could be a little bit tricky. Um, Here the energies might actually be doing you some good because You might be thinking about confronting somebody, but the energies are keeping you from doing that, and that's probably wise. Doesn't feel like this is the right time. Now, if this is kind of heartache over, you know, relationships that were in the past and the other person has now passed over, I think those are the relationships that this can be helpful with. By just kind of letting your brain do what your brain does. Don't question it so much. You know, the thoughts, sometimes we have thoughts and we say, oh, that's a crazy thought. Well, that's pretty demeaning of yourself, isn't it? We all have thoughts. Some of them might make more sense than others, but nothing's really crazy in the sense of if you're thinking about your life and the life events and stuff like that, I think it's all okay. Underneath, we get the Queen of Cups. You know, not gonna lie to you, this is gonna be, you know, a day to, you know, the day before, the day of, and the day after the new moon where, you know, you might cry at a commercial. It just might be emotional. You know, it might not make any sense whatsoever. You know, some of your favorite TV shows that, you know, are normally funny, ha ha, might strike you and as being more poignant and lead to some tears. Um, Perfectly healthy. Uh, this does bring about a new beginning for sure. So I do think the energies around this new moon, they're difficult, but ultimately by the time we get to the other side of it, in particular from Saturday onward, I think our creativity can grow and expand. Our self ability to self express can grow and expand. And our confidence will also grow and expand. But up to that point, it's going to feel like the opposite. It's we're going to feel less confident. We're going to feel less like putting ourselves out there and expressing ourselves. We're going to feel less creative, even though we probably are the same amount of creative that we always are. So just know that those are there. Let's end with some ancestors and angels oracle cards. I think we're supposed to pull four here, so I feel it's four cards for us. What should we know? It's getting the Stargazer card, which is about uh, looking at like the bigger picture. Let's see if that pops out, but definitely feeling that one. The High Priestess, harness the mystic powers. So, you know, this idea of the blowing the cinnamon in the door, these type of things. We might not understand them. We might not think they work. We might be skeptical of them. But, you know, skepticism is healthy. I think the world would be better if more of us were skeptical. Transform and unveil your gifts, the shapeshifter card. Again, this is about this idea of using your creativity and your self-expression and your confidence to really unleash the inner you, so to speak. Um, that might be hard during the new moon, but afterwards, I think these energies come more into focus. And then the animal guardian, trust your instincts. You know, this is one of those tough ones, especially if we're like, oh, I need to go get groceries, but I don't want to go to the grocery store. And then we're all like, well, I have some, you know, whatever in the freezer, I'll be fine. Just let yourself do what you need to do. If you don't want to go to the grocery store and you have food, don't go to the grocery store. Um, don't beat yourself up over thinking that that's somehow bad. Now, that probably is the anxiety lying, but at the same time, if you're comfortable with it, it's okay to play into those things. So just trust your instincts. And then the wise one, grow within your current situation. So wherever life finds you right now, grow within it. If you're retired and you're trying to figure out what to do with your spare time, finding hobbies, inexpensive hobbies, if we're under financial stress in particular, that can be a bit tricky, but they're there. It might be as simple as you know, doing some simple projects around the house, cleaning out some closets, those type of things. Um, and you might say, well, how does that mean growth? Well, it is growth. Anytime we're doing something to improve our surroundings is growth. Our surroundings reflect our inner health, right? Now, that's not to say that you can't live in a messy house and also be mentally healthy, because I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that we sometimes want to make our surroundings a little bit better because we're struggling with certain aspects of our life. And I want to see what's underneath here for some reason. Uh, the great teacher learned from the spiritual experience. Makes a lot of sense. It's going to be a tricky couple days around the new moon, but I think everything kind of eases off. Again, just like I said on the weekly forecast, it's going to be very antsy and anticipatory energies that are going to lead us into contradictory directions. So just be aware and everything will improve. All right. If you're interested in a private reading, just shoot me an email. I'm happy to meet with you. The details are listed in the posts part of the page. And you can also message me on Blue Sky, and it's just at Scrying Out Loud. Okay. Thank you. I'll be back with another video.